Hey guys, I'm going to be doing a pod test today. Today I have, this is the Mako Akokosrade, which I really hope I'm pronouncing right. It's a capsicum chinense variety originating from Ghana in Africa. So apart from Fatalli, this is the first chili from Africa that I've tried. First one from North Africa that I've tried, as far as I know. I did see some similarity in the shape with Fatalli. They're pretty dagger-like, triangular. Can get pretty lumpy and bumpy in them. I've grown this out this year. I've got a plant outside. They've got really beautiful foliage on them, which you'd only really notice if you've grown a few different varieties. But I found just the leaf texture on them, the texture is slightly different. Very dark green. They almost look like they're meant to be a little bit hairy, but they're not. It's very difficult to describe them. When the plant that I've got was a juvenile, it looked so beautiful. It's very hard to describe. The leaves on it look very unique, very beautiful. And now as an adult plant, it's equally pretty good. It's a really good producer. It's got tons of these chilies hanging off them, about 2 to 3 inches long. Beautiful yellow, pale orange colour. Most of them have been this kind of crooked shape. Some of them grow kind of like a straight dagger with triangular shape on them, but the vast majority of the ones that I grew have grown this kind of crooked angle on them. So they do look really cool plants outside. Not too much information as far as Scovilles and flavour profile and stuff goes. I know that it's a chinense, originally collected from Ghana by a man called Joe Delaney. So this is a seed strain that I got off pepperlover.com, and originally the seed source for this was collected by Joe Delaney, as it says on the website. I'll give a link in the description just so that there's a bit more of the story if you're interested in it. I'm not going to go into it on this video. I'm here more to try the chili. Let's see, here's what it looks like on the inside. I've cut it right down to the skin there. You can hear it's just about hanging on. Not too many seeds inside. Pretty waxy looking orange. Not huge amounts of placenta, though these are meant to have a fair bit of heat to them. They're capsicum chinense as well, so I mean, I've only had 1 or 2 chinense that weren't particularly warm. One of them was the Ecuadorian sweet, and that wasn't even particularly sweet, if I'm honest. It had a little bit of kick to it. Aroma on it isn't particularly anything jumping out at me. It does smell slightly green. That kind of raw, fresh pepper smell. And the reason I'm actually doing this pod rather than a few others that I found is because it was one of the most ripe ones around this size. A couple of the other ones might not show up on camera, but they ripen up pretty quickly at the top. It takes a little while for it to reach the tip here. The tip here, tip is still pretty pale. So the pods start off as a very, very light lime green, and then they slowly turn orange from the top down. And what I've noticed on my plant is that the majority of it ripens quite quickly after they start turning colour, and it takes a little while for the tip at the end to get ripe. So the reason I'm testing this particular pod here, which I've cut in half, is because the colour on the end is a little bit darker. So to the eye it seems more ripe. To the nose it smells quite fresh and green. There's not really any pungent aromatics jumping out at me. It definitely smells like a pepper. I wouldn't say there's any Chinense smell jumping out at me there. But yeah, I pulled the C cap off and let's give it a try. Cheers. There's a Chinense. Wow. It wasn't showing up in the aroma. Bite into it, there's very strong Chinense flavour. It's still quite different though. There's an initial whoosh of this kind of floral Chinense flavour, and actually now it's dying down into a very sweet. It's like a Bakatum aroma. It's got this kind of sweet. I always find apple skins in capsicum Bakatum, and this has got a very similar aroma, which is very misleading. You know, it smells like a normal pepper, tastes like a Chinense straight up, and then it's got this very apple-like, fruity, soft aroma. Still quite vegetal. Quite a nice sweetness to it, actually. Almost like a savoury sweetness. Not the kind of sweetness you get from biting into fruit, but say... I think the sweetness has reminded me quite a bit of stewed carrots, boiled carrots. The way that they turn very sweet after they're cooked. And it's a very similar type of sweetness to it. Quite fresh and pleasant on the top of the tongue. Heat is nothing too crazy. It's probably a bit warmer than a cayenne. It's not being particularly aggressive. It's not nagging at any particular part of my mouth. I would say the heat is more focused towards the tip of my tongue. It's leaving my throat and the roof of my mouth alone. It's not really bothering it there. The actual skin on them was ever so slightly bitter, but the skin on them is not particularly thick. So I could feel it when I was chewing it. I could feel a little bit of bitterness there, but by the time you finish chewing it, it's gone, because there's quite a lot of that savoury like sweetness. The aroma's quite interesting on it. It tastes like a Bakatum to me, other than that initial bite. But there's some savoury spice elements in there, not too over aromatic. Something like a tiny hint of something similar to bay leaf in flavour. Black pepper as well. I'd say the heat on it is pretty similar to black pepper as well. There's nothing too hot going on there. It might just have been that I picked a pod like that. I got a feeling some of these might be quite a bit hotter. I'm going to have a nibble on this one, see if I can pick anything out on it, because it's quite a... I'm not used to quite such a soft flavour from a Chinense or from a Bakatam actually. It's very, very soft. Again, straight up, it's Chinense flavour. Skins are very bitter. But the flesh on it is quite soft. The flesh is not crunchy in any way. It's not crunchy, it's not juicy, it's very soft. I mean, these pods I picked them fresh yesterday, but it almost feels like you're chewing on something that's a little bit far gone. There's no crunch, no bite, they just kind of smush down pretty easily. So I guess they're almost in the way you have apples, that you have powdery types and crunchy type apples. This would be a powdery type. This second pod definitely has a lot more heat on it. Same flavours. Chinense up front, goes down into a Bakatam flavour, ending up in a kind of bay leaf and black pepper is what I'm getting from it in the secondary aroma. But the heat is significantly higher on that second one that I bit into. They're pretty similarly built pods. Just there was a bit more heat in this one. And the heat is still focusing on the tip of my tongue, a little bit on the side of my tongue. And it's about the same. It's the same burn, there's just more of it in this pod than the last one. Similar flavours, fresh mouthfeel on it. Quite enjoyable because if you're wanting to get a little bit of kick in there without adding too much chili flavour, I think that's the way to go. They've not got a huge aroma on them. And you've kind of got a little bit from each world, in my opinion, as far as between Chinense and Bakatam flavours go, personally. You've got that initial floral aroma, and then it dies down into a soft, very soft, appley aroma. Nothing dominating. Nothing dominating, but still quite a bit of heat. I don't know what I'd cook with them, but they are quite enjoyable. Great plants to grow. I really like the way that the foliage looked on it, like I said. They're really good producers. I probably picked about 50 pods this size off of my plant yesterday. The texture's a little bit weird on them. I'm used to a little bit more crunch. But yeah, great chili, I think. So yeah, I'll wrap that up there. That was the Mako Akokosrade from Ghana. Cheers.